Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Beth.
And we're part of the team here at Aspodel. So whether you're already an Aspodel member with us or you're a bit CrossFit curious and you want some extra tips to elevate your CrossFit game, this Aspodel may be for you.
So we're on to episode 6 already, and today we've got a Hong Kong A-lister on the pod with us. You might have seen him on the TV already, but now he's here in the gym with us. Welcome, Aaron, to the Aspodel.
Wow, thank you. Great to be here.
Good. We'll touch upon those points in a bit. And as we're in party season now, we might have some tips for you going into the party season. Let's rock and roll.
So Aaron, welcome to the pod. Thanks for hopping in and joining us.
Thank you.
What brings you here today?
What brings me here is Sam WhatsApping me. Oh no, is it Beth WhatsApping me being like, hey, would you like to come on? And I'm like, I can't say no. So here I am.
When was that? 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. About last night. Yeah.
But here you are.
Here we are.
Nice. Good swag you in. So Aaron, for the people that don't know who you are, could you give us like a little, who are you? What do you do? Oh, that kind of jazz. Where'd you come from?
Right. My name's Aaron. I grew up here in Hong Kong. I am half Kiwi, half Hong Konger. I would say I'm a host and MC. I've been doing it for the last 10 to 12 years. Everything ranging from corporate stuff to shows, did something with TLC, and now I'm trying to put more time and resources into that. And so, yeah, that's me, a bit about me.
That's good. And you've pretty much built a name for yourself in the men's mental health scene, such as Beth was Googling men's mental health influencers the other day.
In Hong Kong. You were the first suggestion.
Short list, though.
How do you know?
Exactly.
But
In
you
the
were
top
the first
two.
one.
Is that actually what you typed?
I typed into I always get it the wrong way around, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
GPT.
Whatever it's called,
Yeah.
AI. Men's mental health influencers in Hong Kong. And you were the first suggestion.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
High praise indeed.
Wow. Okay.
That was I was a bit like, oh, I know a celebrity now.
Yeah, before that we weren't going to have you on.
That's fair. Yeah. Absolutely fair.
Joking.
So yeah, you built yourself quite a name as a men's mental health or mental health advocate in Hong Kong. How did that come about?
Actually, it came about when I was looking at trying to do more hosting work. I was trying to find more MC work. I'd just come back from LA. I'd had a travel show in Beijing, and I wanted to try and take the next step into my career. And then when I came back to Hong Kong, I just found that there wasn't many jobs. I would say it was a difficult landscape to navigate. So I thought, okay, let's try and think of your own project to do. At the same time, by chance, I was going through my own issues with mental health. So a few years before that, I was having issues with panic attacks and heavy anxiety. And then going through that, which was like sort of different separate tracks. But what was happening was as I was recovering from that side, the MC hosting side sort of came into it. And I was like, well, why don't you just do your own show about mental health? So I started a podcast. And the whole point of it was for me to get stuff off my chest because it helped. But the main reason really was experts were so expensive that I thought if I started a podcast, I'll meet with them for free. And that was my in to go and speak to them for free. So I got to speak to these incredible clinical psychiatrists that I would never be able to afford. But I said, look, I'm doing this as a podcast. And they were like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, this is amazing. So I got into tons of doors by doing that. And then it started as a podcast about me. And that was something I was meaning to do, but then it flipped and it turned into something that was more for the audience in Hong Kong. And that came about because when I went to this offsite in Copenhagen, this was sort of this accumulation of people that were in the mental health space, and I represented Hong Kong. I started to understand more about what the pain points were. And I remember talking about my podcast and everyone was like, oh, that's great that you're raising awareness, but now what? Then what happens? You're only doing this for yourself. And I was like, it's actually quite true. So then I started researching more about what was happening. And then I flipped it from being about me to actually understanding about what was actually happening. And then that's how I got into the space. But the originality of it was from my own issues and actually me just trying to host more. And then I thought, well, host your own podcast, meet these people for free. And that's how I got into it.
Damn, so you started your career in emceeing and hosting what you're doing now through this as well. Yeah,
that's how Talking Mental started. It was through my MC and hosting work.
Can you explain what Talking Mental is?
Yeah, Talking Mental is a platform that is about for me, talking about mental health in a non-stigmatized way. One of the biggest things that I found when I started talking mental was everyone was talking about mental health in like a very, hi, welcome to the new podcast around mental health where we can explore your issues. And I'm like, oh my God, fuck me. Like, what is this shit? Yeah, like that's not relating to the way I would talk about it.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I can't do that. So I just started talking about it in a way that I felt was relatable to me, which was in a pub style over a few beers and talking about things that way. So I wanted to speak to like sex therapists, to sleep, basically anyone in the space, but in the tone of voice that I would feel comfortable talking about it, which then I found caused a lot of relatability in a good way with men, because I think in that space, that kind of tone, it's sort of a, for lack of a better word, a turn off for men when you're talking about a lot of these sort of issues. And the way I was trying to talk about it related to a lot of men. And then I was getting a lot of messages from men talking to me or asking me questions about it, which, to be honest, at the beginning was like overwhelming to the point where I almost stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Because you started opening up a can of worms that were more intense than I could ever imagine.
As you said before, you started it because like experts were very expensive and things like that. Did you find it very helpful doing that?
When I was doing the podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time it did. But mind you, I was already 4 years into my recovery when I started it.
Yeah.
So if I'd started the podcast when I first was going through it, absolutely would have been the worst thing. But the reason it was 4 years into it, I had such an education over it that I knew that what I was talking about was benefiting me, because sharing about it helped. But I wouldn't have been at that point had I not gone through all the recovery processes to get to that point. The scary part was that it took me 4 years to feel right to talk about it and I had a lot of support. And so that's why I became more empathetic to understanding how long it can actually be before you feel ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a long time. It took me a long time.
I imagine a lot of men go through this. A lot of men probably don't even know they're on the brink of this or are about to go through, let's say, mental health struggles or even just not feeling their self day to day. What are some of the signs that men can see or their loved ones can see, like on the early stages of this, if there is?
When you mention like some men are going through this, all men are.
Yeah.
In fact, every human being is. If you're alive with a brain, you're going through it. It's just where you are on the spectrum. So it's like saying you don't have physical, like where you are in physical health. Yeah. Every day it's just where you are on the spectrum at that point. So everyone's going through something, but it's just you might be dealing with better at a certain point in your times in your life. So understanding that everyone goes through something or is constantly going through something immediately should take down the barrier of like, only some people go through this.
Yeah.
What you're referring to is like people are going through it during the worst periods. So when you're diagnosed with depression or you're diagnosed with having a panic attack, I call it like when the kettle's boiled over and then all of a sudden someone has mental health issues, but actually they've had it the whole time. Or it's just been, maybe they were light on the spectrum and then it's got so much worse that it's now gotten to a point where you feel like you've got the problem now.
And when that
Does that make sense?
Yeah, when that kettle's boiled over, that's kind of like the tipping point when most people seek help.
Yeah,
Whereas
or don't.
Before they, yeah, or don't, yeah. Whereas before, they probably should seek help or start talking to somebody before.
100%. So to give you, maybe I can use my own example. So when I went through the issues of the panic attack. So the panic attack for me was when the water went over the kettle. Now, when it happened to me, so an actual panic attack is fucking terrifying. It's the worst thing that I've ever experienced. And it happened a lot during that time. I thought that it was just out of the blue. And then when I actually was on the road to recovery, I realized that the issues were piling up way before it. And I was just ignoring the red flags. And then that's what caused the panic attack. So for me, it was understanding and unraveling what the problems were so that now when I did the podcast, I can educate myself and other people around, don't miss those things. So then, because that will happen if you keep ignoring.
Can you give us examples of what those red flags look like retrospectively?
Yeah. For me, it was like my parents got divorced. I would drink a lot. I would sleep like shit. Even for me, identity crisis. Like our family split. We lived in different areas. We moved a lot. When I spoke to this clinical psychologist about that, she was like, "Oh, you're such a typical case." And I was like, "Really?" She was like, "Yeah, all of these things were big moments in your life that you didn't address, and then You can sweep them under a rug for a certain amount of time, but then boozing on top of it, not sleeping, not being healthy, not exercising, not eating right, it's just all adding on to the point where it just got too much and it cracked. One of the most clever clinical psychiatrists I ever spoke to talks about red flags in 3 ways. It's like, imagine like a tripod. It was relationships, fun, and rest. So if you think about those 3 like pillars of a tripod, if you're struggling in one of them, those are already red flags, i.e. relationships. If you're struggling, if you're finding your relationship at home is really struggling, your relationship with your colleagues, whatever it may be at work, if those aren't bad, that is already something you need to address. If you're not sleeping enough, if you're not resting enough, those are red flags. And then the play one, the fun one, if you're not having fun and you're just going through life as it's just like it's boring, those are all also red flags. So those are 3 pillars that you can actually identify in your everyday life. That if you just look in the mirror, it's pretty evident whether there are red flags happening. And if there are and you're honest with yourself, then you immediately you should be addressing those problems.
Nice. That's good. That's a good simple way of putting it as well. Because I suppose to address some of those is quite easy if you like. If not having more fun, then at the weekends, try and do something outdoors or try and see your friends or something like that. If not resting enough, try and get a little bit more sleep in the day or a few naps in the day, a bit more sleep at night and so on. Or even resting your brain and meditating.
Exactly. That was a big one. Like it's like how to give your brain ability to rest. And that might not necessarily just mean sleep. So like sport's a big one. That helped me a lot. Like when you're playing rugby or something high paced, you cannot think about anything else but the task in front of you.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is like you go an hour with like, I couldn't even think about that. And that's actually giving your brain time to rest on those issues. I had a chat with a clinical psychologist. I was like, yeah, why do I never have any mental health issues when I'm having sex? And they were like, yeah, because you're never focused on that. You're just focused on what you're doing at hand.
Yeah.
And that's why also that's part of it as well. So actually just have way more sex is probably what I'm saying.
That's the answer.
Yeah, that's just actually the answer. No, but if you look in the mirror with all those 3 things, now those are easy red flags to ignore. So like I can be like, nah, it's fine. I'll sleep later. Or those are easy things to sweep on the rug because they don't feel urgent. So what ends up happening is you wait until there's an urgent need for help and then you go and find the help. The problem with this is when you do that, it becomes really difficult to find the help. 1, because the public system is not built for it. And 2, it's either really expensive. In terms of where you're looking at for the help is actually, because it's so late, you have to find the most extreme level of help. So as an example, for someone who has really bad clinical depression, or let's say a panic attack in my case, because it's such an extreme thing that happened to me, I looked for a clinical psychiatrist because I was like, I need an answer. But they're $2,500 an hour. So you don't have the money to pay for them. What do? Well, you go to the public system. I can't remember the exact number, but I think in Hong Kong, there's like 170 in total for the whole public system. So the waiting time can be up to 2 years before you even see somebody. And the amount of time on average, I think, is about 60 seconds per visit. So like how much you can actually attain in that time, even if it's an urgent case, let's say you try to attempt to take your own life, you still have to wait a week or 2 to see someone in the public system. So what I'm saying is if you wait to that point of the extreme urgency, which is what normally people do, it's really hard to find appropriate help. And also the time frame you're giving yourself is so small because the urgency is so high. So you're like, I need to fix this now. And then it becomes either a financial problem or you don't know what to do. And then it causes way more
extra
issues.
Stress, yeah.
Just way more issues. And then you've got the added on top of, are my family even supportive? Do they even know? Do my friends know? And what happens if they don't? What happens if you don't have supportive family? What happens if you're the only child? What happens if so on and so forth? Which is why Hong Kong teenage suicide is the highest it's ever been.
So what are some avenues people can go down then? Because as you said, the private route is too expensive.
Yeah.
The public route is too long for 60 seconds of a consult with somebody. What other avenues are there for people to go down?
My suggestion would be First of all, acknowledging that that's what I meant when everyone is on the mental health spectrum. It's just where you are. So it's constant check-ins on where you are, really looking in the mirror, and then understanding what red flags are coming up and then addressing those with those red flags. So let's say it's a sleep issue. I would go and either research more about whoever that can help you with specifically with sleep or how to turn your brain off, or go and see a sleep expert who would be way more accessible in terms of actually booking a time to go and see. You wouldn't look at that as like, I'm a mental health doctor, but actually it is. So it's about understanding your red flags and where you are, and then addressing those as they come up. Another big one for me, which is I think also why physical fitness is so important, is it helps you raise your floor. What I mean by that is when your foundation of your floor is higher, it just means to find the help, or the hole you potentially might dig yourself in will always be higher, and it's easier to take a step out. So if you don't work out, you don't stay healthy, all of a sudden you're digging yourself such a hole that when you're trying to climb out, it's so difficult. But if you can raise that base, when you have a really, really tough time, it's an easier way to step out of it than it is if you don't do any of those things. So that's why actually working out for me is like, it just helps me I think about it as like, it's raising my floor. It's making me my baseline higher for when the shit days happen. I have that as my base. That's not like an actual help thing that you can do, but that's at least there.
And you said it helps earlier as well to do physical fitness or sports, because during that period, you're on the task at hand.
Yep.
There's no thinking about anything else. It's like, this shit is really hard. How do I get through 100 wall balls? How do I get through this 80-minute rugby match or something like that?
Exactly right. And also what I liked about class stuff, and this helped me a lot when I was even when I had panic attacks at the time, was human connection or interaction. So sweating, human interaction, having your brain focus on something else. By the time you finish, you always feel better. And there's so much science on that being able to actually exercise and what that actually does for your mental health is so huge. So that's a real big thing. Now, if you don't like that stuff and you're looking for someone to help, there are a lot of actual institutes that are helping. So a lot of NGOs now that are trying to help. There are a lot more around St. John's counseling services that are trying to do it at a cheaper rate. However, it's still that stigma of going to find them that is the hardest part. Whereas potentially coming to a gym might feel like less of a stigma in terms of that jump. It's really difficult to like have that courage to go and step inside like a psychologist's office waiting in the waiting room. Like that's terrifying.
Do you feel like that's changed at all? Is changing with men's mental health, or do you think it's still quite an issue?
I think the language around it is changing, and which is a good thing. I think there are better role models around men's mental health. And a lot of people like for me, a great one is someone like, he's a UFC fighter called Israel Adesanya, who's from New Zealand. He's like Nigerian from New Zealand, but he talks about incorporating mental health training into his training camp. And so he talks about like, why wouldn't you want to get your mind not just to zero, which is everyone's goal, is to get it back to zero, normal functioning in society. But he's like, why don't you increase it into the plus parts? Like, how can you deal with anxiety to maximize it into a super skill, like whether that's breath work, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden he's talking about it in a real positive mindset, where I think once there's a tangible, controllable outcome of it, I think men will almost like turn it into like a gamified thing of like, you're not seeing someone, because that's going to improve your performance at work if you don't do this. So I think eventually that will happen. But it's changing a lot through like the language and humor, which is how I think men want to feel like it can come. Because women have a superpower, I've seen it, where they can speak to people and trust people they don't know and are willing to help. Whereas men, we need to feel like we're in control before we even address what we're talking about. And so I won't do that unless I feel like I can even trust that person. So it might take like 2 or 3 weeks before it's like, okay, now I can kind of go in there, because I also want to feel like I know what I'm talking about. Even I'm trying to explain my own issues, I want to feel like I kind of have an understanding of what's going on, as opposed to like being super vulnerable and be like, I'm freaking out here, guys. I have no idea what to do.
Yeah, I've seen it have a bigger influence now with like sports teams, like the rugby teams, football teams. I think most or nearly all of these teams now have like a psychiatrist or somebody they can speak to within the team. And it's getting even more popular as, I don't know, as the times go on.
Yeah.
And it's great to see. It's really good.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's like, it's important to think about your mind as a tool and how you can perform and like different tricks like that, which is great. So like when you asked me before, what is something someone can do? Like I learned how much breath work is important to controlling and regulating your mind. I didn't actually know how much it helped until I experienced it. I had like a panic attack once and I was scrolling Instagram to try and get my mind off of it. And there was a sponsored box breathing app that came up on the thing. And it was like, follow this pattern. And it was like 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4-second exhale for 60 seconds. And it completely changed my mindset from a fight or flight to rational thought in 60 seconds. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
Then I'm like, okay, it's super powerful.
Box breathing.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty
and
good.
then so you're like, oh, now that's something that can come into it. And that's something that can help me a little bit. So yeah, it's just that. And then education.
Yeah.
Like seriously, that changed my whole thing on it. Just education.
So we may have touched upon it when we're chatting now, but let's say there's people listening to this podcast and in their head, they're like, oh, that could be me. I might need to do something about my mental health. Like, is there 3 things we can say to them right now that is like a little nudge of advice for them to do?
Firstly, everyone who is listening to the podcast will be going through something. It's inevitable. Like it's just impossible that everyone is again, it's just the severity of it. But I think the most important things for me are education. So the more you know about something, the less fearful you will be about it. That's just anything in life. Like you're the most fearful when you have zero idea what's going on. That's when you're the most scared with whatever you're doing. So the more educated you are, the better. The second one would be, I would say, know who your friends are or your inner circle that you can be in the trenches with, that you can talk to. Because as soon as you have someone that you can speak to about it, immediately it like halves your worries and everything halve. And it's just so much of all of it plays in your own head and you convince yourself so much. But actually when you're speaking to people and getting their input, it's really big. And then on that, if you are the person that someone's decided to talk to you about, like really make a conscious effort to like listen. There's a difference between like hearing someone and listening. Like if you hear someone and then just like, oh yeah, whatever. But if you actually listen to what they're saying, and then maybe like they said something like, I need to go and see someone, but I'm terrified. Like a friend who listened might go, dude, I'll sign up with you and I'll go and let's do it together. And that reflection back with care is the difference between listening and hearing. So I would say find someone that would listen to you and help. And then third thing, it's hard to just think about 3 things because that third thing I'm just trying to think about is hard to describe because everyone's life's different. There's context for everyone. So something that I might go through might be completely different to what someone else goes through. To the stresses would be 100% different to what I would go through. So it would just be that education and then your network and then just your accountability and that sort of looking into the mirror mentality and being honest with yourself. Actually, the answers are never that far away. It's just how willing you are to look in the mirror and address being like, yeah, that's shit. Or like, I'm really struggling in these areas. I need to go and speak to someone in that.
And I guess a part of it, like the people that will be listening to this podcast are mostly obviously our members who already look after their physical health because they're coming in the gym, they're doing CrossFit a few times a week, but it's taking that same care about your mental health, isn't it? Like we in this environment find it easy to focus on our physical health. But how often do we treat our mental health with the same, like what are we doing to take care of it?
Exactly. And physical health, I still believe it's like, just because you are fit doesn't mean you've got all your problems solved. And also you can't control everything. So like if, you never know, something might happen to you in your life that you couldn't control, whether it's something happened to a family member or something, right? Who knows? But you are then reacting to that, and those train track moments which shift, those are when things can happen. And just being in the gym, again, will help raise your floor. It's only just doing that. It's not controlling everything else. So what other tools are you using for that? And so at the time when I was going through my own issues, drinking was a massive vice. And it was amazing because it helped, which is why I actually can understand why alcoholics exist. Because it was like this perfect blanket of like, oh, you're all good. and I could be myself, but then it just sucks for the few days after that.
Yeah, nice. That's very good, very insightful. It's good to have a serious conversation about this, and people, especially myself, it's good to know we're not alone. As you said, everybody's going through it at some point. It's just how severe it is on that spectrum.
Yep.
It's good. That's the most powerful part for me.
Yeah.
Most powerful part. Yeah. And I just think I understand why it's so scary, because you can't see what's happening. Like with a physical injury, if you hurt yourself, you know where it is, you know the rehab, you know, like if I tear my ACL, I know exactly how long the rehab will be by seeing a specific specialist on it. With this, it's just hard to see it, so it's hard to quantify it.
And it's harder for other people to see it, isn't it?
Exactly.
If you're limping or you're on crutches or whatever,
Exactly.
it's easy to go, I've hurt my foot.
Yeah.
But how do you explain to somebody that you've got something going on, or if you want to, want to explain it in the first place? But
Yeah. So yeah, I would say do all of those things. Check out, make sure the red flags. Those 3 things actually helped me a lot. It was relationships, fun, and like hobbies, and then your rest. Yeah. However you're resting. Those 3, I would say, if you're struggling in any of those, that means something will come up. You just need to address them earlier.
Nice. Thanks, Aaron.
thanks, Aaron. So that's pretty much it for episode 6. We've just obviously got time for our famous Wheel of Fun. So Aaron, you get to do the honor today of spinning the wheel.
Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Wow, that was powerful.
That was
Whoa,
powerful
that's a good
spin.
spin.
Yeah.
And we have landed on this or that.
Wow.
Let's have it. So, quick fire, this or that.
Quick fire. Okay.
Beth and I are going to...
Oh, that was this or that. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, we're
but-
straight into it.
No.
Yeah. I was like, oh
Come
my
on,
God.
choose, Aaron.
Yeah.
But really, Beth and I...
Yeah.
So we're going to spit out some CrossFit themed things, and you're going to say this or that.
Let's go.
Snatches or cleans?
Cleans.
Wall balls or lunges?
Wall balls.
Running or rowing?
Rowing.
Assault bike or ski erg?
Assault bike. Yeah.
Wow, so quick.
But you're a beast on the assault bike.
Assault bike. I work with, gravity. Yeah.
Have you got one?
Morning or evening training, or neither?
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
Burpees or box jumps?
Definitely not burpees. So it could have been anything else
Anything else but
but
It would just
burpees. Yeah.
always be not burpees.
for burpees. Push-ups or pull-ups?
Oh, push-ups.
Push-ups all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't do a pull-up.
I thought so you do
Yeah,
one
with
like...
about 7 bands underneath me.
Still counts. A
Still
pull-up's a
counts.
pull-up.
Chins over the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
HYROX or a sprint triathlon?
Oh, HYROX.
HYROX?
A sprint triathlon. I've never done a sprint triathlon.
Because you did the...
Mr. Ironman over here. Aaron Ironman, they call him.
We definitely cut that out. Definitely edit that out. Yeah, HYROX. Well, I'm now going to be emceeing for HYROX, so I've got to say HYROX.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Mate. So you have to say HYROX.
I have to say HYROX.
Good plug.
Nice.
No, I want to say HYROX.
Which one are you emceeing? Singapore.
Yeah.
Nice,
There's a few members actually going to be there.
Yeah.
Shout out Aspodel a few times.
100%.
Thanks so much, Aaron. It's been really great and really interesting talking to you. Where can our listeners find you, find Talking Mental, if they're interested in learning a bit more about what we've been talking about today?
They can find us on any of the platforms, Talking Mental. Also here, they could pop into Aspodel.
Hey,
12:30 every day.
Exactly. The
Always
12:30
there.
class, I'm always here.
Kennedy Town.
Kennedy Town.
Yeah, of course.
Best one. And they could find me anywhere and reach out. Honestly, I've had strangers reach out and on any platform, and I'm always happy to message them back with anything that I can help with. So yeah, hit me
Nice.
up, yo.
That's really good. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening. You can always find us on all the platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram,
Cool.
Apple. And if you do have any feedback for us, please come and chat to us on the gym floor, or you can give us a little message on what you liked, what you didn't like, and those kind of bits and bobs.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.